I'm gonna
Recording in
need a
progress.
motion to open the public hearing.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to open the budget public hearing.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote on this. Laura?
Aye.
Leora?
Aye.
Amy? Aye. Why did I stop? Christy?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Declare the public hearing open. Wow, that went super awesome. Okay, so
Fine.
the purpose of the open budget hearing is for members of the public to hear a few words about the budget. It's not going to be long. And then we open the floor to public comment. So Jay, are you ready with whatever it is you would like to say?
Stall for a second.
Okay, I'm stalling for a second.
You had a joke? We're so
I do
happy to
not
have you
have a
all
joke.
here
We're
with
so
us.
glad
We
to see
also
folks in
supposed
the
to log
audience.
into Zoom?
What?
Are we supposed to do anything for the
No,
Zoom?
you don't have to do anything.
Okay.
So I can talk about that.
I'm
This
like,
is our
okay.
first meeting using Zoom. Thank you to Mandy Leap, who is running the Zoom for us. So she will monitor her public comment hands on Zoom. So if you do have a question and you are watching us on Zoom, you can put your hand up and we will get to you. And Mandy, you can feel free to interrupt me or, well, not interrupt me, but, give me a wave if you've got somebody. If it starts to build up, we'll start to go 1, 1, 1, 1, so it's fair. But I suspect that the folks who are here are likely to have questions. So, Jay, are you ready?
Yeah, I
Awesome.
can answer any questions. I didn't really prepare anything other
That's
than
totally
a couple
fine.
slide
Super brief.
overview. So in speaking, obviously tonight anybody can talk to, we talked about that full $1.6 million reduction. Later in the meeting, we'll be talking about that middle ground, about 809,000 in reductions. And the other budget, if you will, that's on the table is that full level service FY26 budget that we had talked about for the previous 6 months or so. Obviously, it includes contractual increases, 5 new positions, 3 at the elementary level for class sizes, and 2 ELL teaching positions that no matter what scenario plays out, we're going to need those 2 positions. Secondary instrument lease, and we had put 11% increase in transportation. Later tonight, you're going to hopefully vote to approve the contract, coming in at 11.9%, which seems really high, but in the world of transportation, that's absolutely fantastic. What's not yet reflected in the budget book that I'll be speaking to later tonight is a revenue generation idea that is novel to Grafton. I am very confident that we will be able to bring in at least $200,000, and basically that will decrease our salary need by $200,000. So the total as of today would be $47,846,071, 6.24% increase. And again, the only change is that decrease of $200,000. The big cost drivers, we've gone over those 5 new positions, the 3% COLA plus steps and lanes per the contracts. We are 80% plus staffing, so that's always going to be our biggest cost driver. Substitutes at 127,000, so that was on the salaries and new position side. On operations and maintenance, special ed tuition increases of 252,000, and then technology at 232. And as a reminder, our actual expenditures for technology are only going up by about 31,000, but we're basically, last year we backfilled or covered ourselves with 1.2 million in revolver funds. 200 of that went towards technology, but actual increase is about 31,000. And then this is just another way to look at that increase. You can see those 5 cost drivers make up about 97.3% of our overall increase, with the 5 new teachers, salaries, special ed, tuition, subs, and tech. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions before I get out of the way?
Well, I would like to keep this for the public first, if we can, because they're here and we're going to be here later, so the committee can ask questions later unless there's something super burning that you need to ask right now.
I just have a clarification question.
Okay.
Which might, I don't know. This budget that we're looking at, this is the regular, not the decrease.
This is the full budget.
Full budget.
Yes.
Yep, with the exception of that 200,000 that, again, we're going to do no matter what.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, so for members of the public who are here to ask questions, all you have to do is come up to the podium, say your name. With the school committee, what we ask is you can tell us your relationship to the school district. Either you have kids in the district or you don't. You don't have to give your street address. There are folks who have children in the district who don't live in Grafton. 3 minutes, short and sweet, and we'll do our very best to get everybody heard. So come on up to the podium if you have a question. Nobody has a question. Really? Are there any questions on Zoom? Okay.
Not yet, right.
No questions at all. Wow. Well, thanks for coming. Oh, here's a
Comment?
question.
Or comments?
Or comments. Comments are fine too.
Don't want to be first, but since no one else is here. So, Dan Gasper, Grafton. On September 24th, the school committee meeting of last year, Dr. Cummings presented the upcoming school budget and explained the need for the override. At that time, I was able to ask him the following question. What steps are we taking to need another override in 5 years? If there's another plan that stretches this override to year 6, year 7, have you thought of that? And your response at that time was, I've definitely thought about it, but there is no plan.
Correct.
There is no plan. As we all know, failing to plan is planning to fail. The school runs on a fixed income. The state formula isn't changing, and nothing is getting cheaper. I reject this defeatist attitude I've seen around the town and on Facebook, and I've heard, which is that there's nothing we can do. One has only to look at the school budget and see that some of the line items don't add up. To simply say there's nothing we can do and the school budget, looking at it, is a distraction, and to dismiss small savings as drops in the ocean is not only an abdication of responsibility, but it's also an insult to any teacher that gets laid off if this override doesn't pass. Small numbers add up. Each teaching position saved is a win, and responsible allocation of school funds is essential for maintaining our strong schools. This is the same concern the select board raised at their last meeting. So, we all want what's best for this town, what's best for our schools. That's why we're all here tonight, right? We've had overrides, one 5 years ago and one 10 years ago, but I don't feel our plan has changed at all. So I'm asking you again tonight, what are we looking at to stretch this override so that when we get it, it lasts more than 5 years? Thank you.
If it's appropriately designed to last 5 years, I would expect that it's going to last 5 years. And I'm wondering, when you say our plan, are you talking about a school plan or a town plan? Because the
I'm
school,
talking about the school plan, your
Right.
budget, because it seems like
Right.
we haven't delved into, there are many ideas that were brought up that were quickly dismissed.
Can you give me
And,
an example?
Moving the fees that we already have to keep in line with market. That's an option. I mean, that saves
Right,
us
and
money
that-
right there. And as I said, drop in the bucket, but yes, it would save a
didn't-
position,
I definitely
right?
didn't say it was a drop in a bucket.
Yep.
And if we look at, say, rental fees, that, I'm
Yep.
guessing that's what you're getting at. This board hasn't talked about that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy to talk about it, and I think I'd give you some information that might be surprising when we do that.
Yeah, I think it would be worthwhile delving into the
I think
budget
it's
and
already
talking
on
about
the.
it. There's
I
a lot
think
of
it's
line
already on
items.
the agenda.
Yeah.
If you are able to stay, I
Mm-hmm.
will definitely give a history, which will help frame some of your concerns.
Yeah. The budget was difficult to review as well. It's not a spreadsheet. So that
Yep,
was
no,
that,
our
that makes it
budget's
hard
definitely not
for
a spreadsheet.
for everyone to ingest and understand, right?
Have you reached out or asked any questions of me?
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I just want to
Thank you.
respond to one thing that you said about the number of years. We haven't even asked for a number of years, so we couldn't possibly have a plan to make an override stretch. So people are talking about a 5-year, a 3-year, a 1-year, a 2-year. Nothing's been decided. All we're doing tonight is telling the community and telling the select board, this is our number. It's gone down $200,000.
I appreciate that. That's
So
wonderful.
That's where we're at.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you have one question on Zoom?
One question on Zoom.
All
right.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Lisa Hall. I think most of you know me, but I have two kids in the district, one in 8th grade and one in 4th grade. And I just, this is more of a comment, and I just want to say that I appreciate Jay and the whole team and Evan trying to come up with every possible way to bring that 1.6 million down, because it really is an impossible situation without impacting our kids and impacting the funding that goes to the school. No one wants to see class sizes go up, especially any parent in the district and any teacher in the district. And I voiced it before. My biggest concern with the class size going up, if we have to reduce teachers, first of all, the kids are not getting as good of an education. We're going to lose the school choice revenue that we have. And people are not going to look to Grafton anymore as a good school district. We will lose the good teachers and the amazing staff that we currently have today. So as Jay has said, it would be catastrophic if we don't keep level service. So I just want to make that comment, and I wanted to thank everyone for everything that they've been doing.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else? Question or comment? Wow. Nobody else on Zoom?
To be fair, 2 is a new record.
Last year it was just me.
Two
Year
is-
before that, I think it was me, or
Yeah,
2
it
years.
was
ago,
Andy.
Yeah.
One year was
Jack
Andy.
Kelly came once. So. Double our money and a spin.
So we usually do just sit here and wait till the allotted time has passed, and then we close the hearing. So
We try not to say stupid things, which is so hard for Laura.
Really?
It's so hard for me. Say you already did it. I'm not anything stupid yet.
It's gonna be a long 18 minutes.
I know.
I could do a set.
Seriously.
Guess we didn't need the extra 15 minutes after all. There's nobody. Is there a lot of people on?
We have 9 attendees.
Ooh.
Pretty
Does that
good.
include us?
It does not.
Oh, good.
Can we raffle something off to everybody who asks a question?
We can, sure.
Free 10 minutes with James Cummings to answer your
Remember
budget
the part where
question.
we talked about not saying stupid things?
I know.
None of this
Help
is
ourselves.
stupid.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just cannot.
I think the raffle idea is quite smart.
It is. Just we don't have anything.
Like buy Starbucks. I'll donate it. Sorry.
We really do appreciate everybody coming out. This is usually how it goes. People come and there's no questions, and
No matter what.
no matter what,
If we had 15 minutes, it would be.
it would have been all right. That's okay.
Well, probably would.
30
Based on
people.
the comments from the last meeting, that was a lot.
Well, we're going to start off the meeting with more budget, so.
Yeah, we should probably do that and then Frank, since we've got people here for the budget, or no?
No, I don't think it's a good idea. I want people who plan to be here at 7. We do it now.
No, I'm saying it's 7.
Oh, yeah, 7.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were saying do that now.
No, I'm saying flip the two.
We really are more organized than this.
We have had a few new people join. I don't know if you
Okay.
want to just kind of read.
Sure, so the floor is open for questions from the public, either in the room or on Zoom. Come on in.
People might have
So
not
if you-
realized it was.
If you are on Zoom and you have a question, please put your hand up and we will call on you. No takers, huh?
I will alert you immediately if someone raises their hand.
I think I'll be able to tell from your face. So just to reiterate, for those of you who are on Zoom, this is a public hearing. The point is public comment. If you have comments or questions, you just need to raise your hand and we will call on you. The folks in the room have exhausted their array of questions.
Don't we typically get a budget book at this hearing?
I wouldn't say that that's typical, no.
Last year we did.
I wouldn't say it's typical. But I also, seeing how in flux everything is, I would not expect there to be a physical book for this meeting. So at 6:55, I'm going to ask for a motion to close.
Madam Chair.
It's
It's
not
not
6:55.
Oh, I thought you said it is 6:55.
No,
I apologize.
sadly, no.
Just giving everybody a heads up.
I'm sorry.
It's still 8 minutes, 7 minutes away. 8 minutes away.
There are still no questions on Zoom in case you were.
I knew you would tell me as soon as you knew.
She's just holding questions to haunt us.
So many.
Finale.
So far, this whole Zoom thing is going great.
I mean, people at
50%
home
of our
can hear us and see us, so as far as I'm concerned, it actually
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
Going quite well.
For sure. It's great.
Yes. I figured, you know, that'll keep me from saying dumb things.
We actually have a hand. Oh,
Excellent.
and it just got put down, so I'm not sure. If you did just raise your hand and you do have comment, you can go ahead and raise your hand again. That person just signed out of the meeting. He's doing super well.
Maybe they signed into the wrong meeting.
The question was, what meeting is this?
What meeting is it?
Who are those beautiful women?
If there is anybody new on Zoom, this is the school committee public budget hearing. If you have a question or a comment, please raise your hand. We are happy to hear from you. There will be a public comment period during the regular meeting, but I anticipate that will be brief, as we just had a half an hour of public comment that no one took advantage of. That's not fair. Not
No
no
one.
one. Two people took advantage of
So far.
so far. Good phone.
Not telephone, like a
I know.
telephone.
Five more minutes. We have 3 minutes to go in our public hearing. Anybody new who's joined us on Zoom, you have 3 minutes to raise your hand and ask your question. And we will adjourn this public hearing and we will move to our regular meeting at 7 o'clock.
Plates? Maybe get a limited edition plaque. All of our faces on it.
Oh, all right, okay, welcome.
Oh my goodness, so you're quiet all day. Hi. Tina Roney, I'm a parent of children in the district. I recognize the concerns and the severity of this year's budget, and I hate to think ahead too much to next year. I guess I'm just curious, like, to what degree is the planning for this year's budget take into account what, you know, we don't have a crystal ball, and yet there are certain things that we can project, or I'm sure y'all can project going forward. I guess to what account and to what degree has that been considered with the cuts that will be made this year, so that whole programs aren't eliminated or things of that nature that are really difficult to bounce back from?
Thank you. I can speak to that. Actually, you're not late. I knew you guys would come in at 7. Thank you. We're
not late.
off by half an hour.
Welcome.
What am I talking
What are
about?
we doing about?
Oh,
this
yeah,
year?
thank you. Just this afternoon, actually, Evan was working closely with Kathleen, Mary, and myself to update the 5-year forecast. So I'm going to expect probably at the next select board meeting, he'll go through those revised numbers. I haven't seen the finalized version yet. Up until knowing that we're going to have updated numbers, I'm not positive what those are. I can speak to next year. Based on the previous forecast we had, we'd have a reduction this year of 1.5 million and then $1 million next year. After that, if we did have 2.5 million in reductions, obviously our costs go down significantly because you've cut 2.5 million, the majority of which is going to be in salaries. So then that number is obviously much smaller in year 3. And then unfortunately what happens is as class sizes go up, programs go away that you referred to, I would anticipate 100% that we'd lose a lot of our school choice students. And through that school choice program, we generate revenue that helps offset the budget. Also with that, with increased class sizes and decreased supports, the our ability to keep students who have special needs in district is jeopardized. Right now, we send about 1% of our students out of district for services that they very much need, and that's great. But keeping that to 1% is fantastic for the kids, and it's fantastic budget-wise for us, because we're not paying very high tuitions and tremendous transportation costs. So it's a win-win. So once you go down that road in the districts that do fall apart, those two things compound all the problems that already exist. I think that's the basic answer.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the gallery? Any questions or comments on Zoom? Okay, I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move we close the public budget hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We'll move to a roll call vote. We'll start at the other end this time. Rebecca?
Aye.
Christy?
Aye.
Amy? Aye.
Leora, aye.
Laura, aye.
Our public hearing is closed. Everybody can breathe for 4 minutes. Thank you. Regular school committee meeting to order. We are live here in conference room A, and also for the first time for a regular meeting, we are on Zoom. Thank you to Mandy Lape for running the Zoom for us. Those of you who remained on from our budget hearing that just happened, you can stay on. And if you're just joining us, welcome. We will have a brief public comment period, but since we just had a whole half hour of budget hearing in which we had 3 questions, I'd like to try to keep it as short as we can manage. So if there is anybody here in the gallery or on Zoom who has public comment at this time, please raise your hand. Give it a second. Nobody on Zoom. Okay, we'll move on to general business, which I'm sure is why people are probably here. Tonight we will vote on the fiscal year 26 budget. Jay will give us a brief overview again of what we're looking at, and we will vote on what we send to the select board. Go ahead, Jay.
So just so I'm clear, do you want me to speak to that middle ground scenario? Or,
We could do that as a separate piece.
okay,
Maybe let's do what we're sending to the select board so that there's not any
okay.
confusion.
All right, perfect. So before, as we get into basically setting the stage for that, I did want to, it ties in well. I had prepared a few slides, assuming that we'd get questions that tied to them, and they didn't necessarily, although Mr. Gasper's questions tied to some of this. But after the last select board meeting that was touched upon, I received various questions, and they basically went into 3 buckets. So like history, how did we get here in terms of where we stand financially right now? Was this a surprise budget problem? Was this unexpected? Are we dropping it in the lap of committees like all of a sudden? And lastly, negotiations. We did negotiate with all 4 of our units last spring. Should we have done that? Should we not have done that? And how do we compare? So I just want to touch on those things. I'll start with that history piece and that surprise problem idea that was asked of me. So this is something I wrote for one of our financial documents. It says, what we want as a town for the future of our students is debatable. The fact that the current funding model is not sustainable for our schools is not. Despite having the lowest per pupil spending in the state, annual cost increases for special education tuitions and salaries alone exceed the limited additional dollars available to the town. In the near future, the town will need to make a decision as to what the immediate and long-term future of the Grafton Public Schools will be. Now, that's something I could have written yesterday, and you wouldn't think twice of it, right? In actuality, I wrote that and sent it out on March 11th, the very day in 2014. 11 years ago, that's a little over 4,000 days ago. And it all holds remarkably true. That message has not changed. back in 2014, when we were faced with the first operational override ever in Grafton, I think a really good thing happened. The finance committee, the select board, and the school committee all got together in what was the brand new GHS library. And we had a discussion. I remember it being a robust discussion. And we looked at or talked about town services in a general sense. And did we want to decrease our services and make that more affordable, keep it the same, or even increase? We probably, in my 15 or almost 15 years in Grafton, that was probably the most real discussion we've had about those three basic options. And we looked at this document that really holds true to this day, where we had laid out if we had strong or great funding, so not just stable, what could we get? Immersion, some of the things we've actually somehow been able to do, but folk ed programming, STEM programming, all these like really great to have things. Then in the yellow, we talked about stable. And that was keeping the district whole, class sizes within recommended ranges, supports in place for special ed and counseling, maintenance and custodial needs being met to a satisfactory level, basically level service, like sticking with what we had. Or if we chose to or did nothing and we had limited or dysfunctional funding, what would play out? And the exact same things we talked about in 2014 with class sizes, programming, and it just compounding as the years go on. That's unchanged. None of that is really fundamentally unique to Grafton. So we had that discussion. And in the end, the decision was made that an override would be pursued, again, first ever in Grafton, and we'd go for stable schools, so essentially level service, keep the district whole, all the things that I just touched on, and there would be a 5-year plan to improve the roads, you may recall. Came up with this plan. The plan was designed to last 5 years. And if everything went according to plan, the idea was we as a school committee and superintendent basically weren't going to be going back to the town asking for more money in year 3 or, oops. And that could have happened. The economy could have crashed, and we could extend it, of course, if suddenly way back in 2015 they redid the funding formula and it was nirvana. It probably would have been pretty easy to stretch it out. But fundamentally nothing changed, and it lasted 5 years, which was great. Didn't see us for 5 years, and we certainly kept the schools whole, even improved, I believe. That brought us to 2020. We again met, instead of the library, we met here. I don't remember myself having much discussion at that point, just given the time that we were in, where we talked about really moving good to great. It was really stable or not have an override and kind of go towards dysfunctional funding. But the decision was, it was still made. Let's stick with the stable level service, we're whole. We were doing a good job. The thought was we can do it again for 5 years. It wasn't roads this time, but a number of municipal needs were paired with it. And we had that 5-year override plan, put that forward. And that, again, is not just a plan for the schools. That was in concert with the town. So we did that, and it passed. At the same time, something that I think was really terrific, it went to Mr. Gasper's thinking. When you look at the coordination and strategic responsibilities, every board in Grafton owns some piece of that. And our boards in Grafton are awesome. A lot of people actually think, you guys I'm sure know this, think that you get paid to do all this work. You don't. We have great people. For the 15 years I've had, school committee, FinCom, select board, all the other boards, they've just worked their tails off and been fantastic. The select board has a unique position, as you know, and I know the select board knows that part. This is right from the Mass Select Board Handbook. Apart from legal responsibility, the select board can and should be the group in town that sets
Policy.
Thank you. It's locked on my thing. Sets policy and strategic direction. That strategic direction's obviously critical because that's tied with funding, which is town funding, not just school funding. And to that end, the select board at that time put together a sustainability commission. And it really, I think it started, I did a lot of legwork looking into it. Started in 29, they did work through 20 and provided the publicly, it was Zoom at the time, presented to the select board in the town their findings. They looked, it was obviously no secret that we're in a structural deficit. We are override dependent. They looked at benchmarking across a number of area towns and similar towns to Grafton statewide. And it was all about sustainability of service. They have a really good benchmarking plan that's easily available. I'll make sure it's available on our website too, as with the same link to the select board. So I think some really great work. In my time, it was, in just my opinion, the best work we've done as a town, because this included, while it was commissioned, if you will, by the select board, included select board members, but FinCom, some individuals at large, Amy was on it. So we had all the committees, all the central committees represented, a real group effort. And that was fantastic. Unfortunately, that led right into the pandemic. Everybody, obviously, I get it, shifted, and I don't know if the commission's even, it doesn't exist now. Which is just reality, people come and go from boards, etc. But that was exactly, goes back to what Mr. Gaspar was talking about, having a real plan with actuals, with planned revenues. This not just one department, like the school department, just doing its own thing. It was all tied together. And I think eventually, in my mind, as a town, it wouldn't be just schools. Getting back to that kind of approach would make a lot of sense. There is zero doubt, I think, in my mind, or anybody that's really been involved in town politics, that we are override dependent. Something we either need to continue to have overrides every X number of years, or significantly decrease the services. So that's where we stand. I just wanted to touch on that. And that brings us to today, and I won't read this again, but that in the yellow is exactly what I read a couple minutes ago. And the only thing that's changed in that is, instead of that year, we were absolutely the lowest out of 319 districts. We were number 319. We're 11 from the bottom now. That's the only thing that's changed. And that was a long time ago. 4,018 days. That's a long time. So to say that this is a surprise to anybody involved in town politics just doesn't make any sense to me in any way, shape, or form. It's been going on just way too long. Any questions about that piece? So that's kind of that history piece and the perception of dumping our problem on somebody like out of the blue. Like it couldn't be more out of the blue.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
Thank you, Jay. This is really great information, and definitely would be something I'll be sharing. I wanted to just add a little bit more just spice, is if you go back to that first override, the town actually couldn't fulfill what we had voted on, and we wound up taking a deduction. That first override, I forget how much it was, but it was a good amount of money where we were supposed to get, I think, 5%, and we got 4.5% or 4%. Right. So we already had to step back a little bit. And I don't know where to do this, but I think here, because I'm hearing some of the same questions that came out of some of those comments that were at the select board. And I just want to touch on that line by line that I hear a lot about in the town. I always feel like maybe that great movie from, again, I'm all stuck in the 90s, of Dave, where they met at the end and they went line by line in the budget and they could save like all the programs. I think that makes a lot of people really hopeful, and I was probably one of those people. So we have, number one, we have Kathleen and Jay, who both go line by line through our budget. We have 5 of us who go line by line. I don't mention it ever that I go line, but that's our job, is to go line by line. And a lot of times maybe we think about different values. A few weeks ago, you might have heard some people speak passionately for and against fees. It's not because we don't understand that we could raise money through fees. It's that myself has a very strong opinion on what that does for kids. And that's my job here. So I want to remind people that people go line by line. We don't talk about it, but I could certainly bring it up at every meeting if that would make people feel better, that we look at every line item in our budget. That's literally our job that we don't get paid for. So, and Kathleen, she does get paid for it and is actually qualified to do that, has degrees and everything in that. So thank you, Kathleen, shout out.
I did want to also just add on to the 11th from the bottom. We didn't move up. You've said this a couple of times, Jay, and I just want to reiterate, we're not moving up because we're doing better. We moved up because other districts are passing us. They're doing worse. And that's not great. I mean, that's not something to stick our flag in and say, woohoo, we're still really, really low. And the fact that other schools are doing worse than us shows that it's a systemic issue. It is not just a Grafton issue. We're not overspending. We are working very hard to motivate our elected officials in the State House to, try to make some changes, and it's going to take time. But that's what's frustrating, is we know what the problem is. Without adjusting our expectations of the schools, we need an override. That's where we're at. We're not going to get the state to come in and save us this year, or probably next year. But we are moving heaven and earth to try to get them to listen, and there's multiple attacks there that you'll hear some about tonight. But I just want people to be aware that, there are many communities in this position, and the number of communities in this seat grows every budget cycle. So please don't think that we're special. We're not. We've been very lucky to have successfully passed 2 overrides. I don't think any community has done that. Not in this time frame. And it shows what a commitment our residents have to the school system. And we're hoping, really hoping, if we need it, that we'll be able to count on them one more time. Maybe this is the last time. I can't promise that. But that's what we're hoping, I think. Anyway. Anybody else have anything for Jay on this first part?
I do,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair. I just want to build off what Laura was saying about the line by line piece, the fees piece. I want to be very clear and sort of echo what you were saying, Laura, which is we obviously consider that. We've not voted on anything. But I want to make really clear with fees and other cuts that we're talking about people, not widgets, right? So you might implement a fee or change the cost of something, and it's not like what you put in is what you get out, because people might change their behaviors or, what are the unintended consequences? So I want to be very clear that we're thoughtful about all of those things, and everything is, of course, on the table, but it's not just, oh, let's implement this and we make $70,000. That's a teacher. It doesn't really work that way. And we have to put in all the inputs to really understand what's worth it. That's all.
Anybody else? Okay.
All right, and that third set or bucket of questions were around negotiations, the timing, and how do we compare to other area districts. If I could just change this, great. So we've established the town is and has been for a decade plus in a structural deficit, override dependent. As a town, I think we have about 600 employees, roughly 500 employees in the school department. We obviously have a responsibility to try to provide a fair and competitive wage to our employees. Our employees do a fantastic job. I was asked about the timing. Like, if you're override dependent, how can you negotiate? How could you give a contract? We're not just going to be put on hold for 15 years because we're override dependent. If that day comes that we don't get an override, we are going to have to make significant reductions, and that is, we're over 80% people. It's going to be people. But we can't afford, it is far more dangerous to not pay people and at least try to be as competitive as possible, which is a huge challenge for us. We work incredibly hard at that with all of our units. I did think it was interesting that this past spring we negotiated with and created contracts with our 4 units, the teachers, nurses, custodians, and support staff. And on the municipal side, they signed a contract with the police, with under that same umbrella, that same exact uncertainty. Of course, you're gonna pay police. They're fantastic. They work hard for Grafton. We need highly qualified, good police to provide services for the town. Like, it's not an option to be unsure and just not move forward. If a contract was given that's just absurd, sure, but that would be, whether you're override dependent or not, that would be fair to question that. So I get questions along those lines. It must be, we must need this override because we're paying our staff so unbelievably well. And it's probably the teachers. That's our largest unit, and boy, they must be just, whew, they must be killing it. Well, let me show you. This is when we look at 25 to 27. So that's 3-year contracts. We look at the state had COLA. So they averaged over the 3 years, those districts in the state, looking at those, and they're all rolling. So everyone's not on the same 3-year cycle or 4. But state was 9.95%, Grafton at 9, Auburn at 9, and Mendon Upton 9.25. So you would see that and say, okay, looks very much on par for the course with area districts and below the state average. So let's break that down a little bit. And I want to be really clear in saying I couldn't have been more proud of the work between that the teachers union did over this past summer and the work that the school committee did. Of course, we're struggling financially. I think I've made that abundantly clear, but we still need to pay staff as much as we possibly can. And that's hard to do. And they worked really well with us. And this is where we're at. So this is with that new contract. You'll see for comparables, all of these are typical comparison group. Southborough, I usually group that. Southborough, Northborough Elementary, and then Algonquin. We actually lose staff to Algonquin. We have a lot of connection to Southborough and Northborough. The other 3 that I didn't include, so all of these were either 25 through 27, like us, or 24 through 26. There are 3 area districts that are really out of sync, if you will, with these 5, and those are Shrewsbury, Millbury, and Northbridge, and all are currently negotiating. So I expect within the next month or 2, once they're finalized, I'll have their numbers. Shrewsbury is typically around Westboro. Millbury is more like Mendon Upton until later year. The more you move up, they fade back a little bit. In Northbridge, historically, I'd say a little under Mendon Upton, but above Auburn and Grafton. But we'll see how they play out in a couple months. That said, these 5 are all apples to apples, roughly comparisons. So we'll start with bachelor's degree step 1. That's our lowest, newest person. People like to think that every time we post a job, we are just flooded with bachelor 1 people, and wow, they're awesome, and what a savings. It just doesn't happen. It might happen more in more urban settings where you're getting people maybe that went to college and now they're living in an apartment. In Grafton, it's just, if it does happen, it's usually somebody that's living with mom or dad or a relative in the Grafton area. So it's great when it happens, but it doesn't happen a lot. So you can see, obviously, we managed to top Auburn, but if anybody has offers from any of those other 3 districts, especially at that age, and that's just 1 year. Remember, when we hire them, they're thinking they've got a career ahead of them. So you multiply that with every year going out. Here's master's step 4. So I'm going to gradually work our way up. This is what we use, like when we have a placeholder for like the kindergarten, or not kindergarten, sorry, say a grade 3 teacher. We'll use as a placeholder master's 4. We have found that in the end, we average out at about master's 4. There'll be some position, science, it could be like physics, God forbid. Some positions are super hard to find, and they typically are more experienced, while others tend to have a pool with less experience. So that's our average. Again, we're nip and tuck with Auburn. Unfortunately, Auburn, we don't live in a 2-state island in the middle of the or two-town island in the middle of the Pacific. This is our reality. This year we lost, for the first time, we've lost 3 teachers mid-year. That's never happened to us before, and it's something that's happening not just in Grafton, all over the place. But they left for districts that are on this chart, and big secret, it wasn't Auburn. So that's master's step 4. This is more mid-career, so you have 30 credits beyond your master's step 8. Again, no shocker, we're with Auburn, and everybody else, is Westboro, 10 minutes away is 10,000 more. And then lastly, top step. Again, Grafton and Auburn, Mendon Upton falls back a little bit, and then Westboro and Southboro are in a different stratosphere. So my point is that we are fighting tooth and nail to stay competitive. I love Grafton. I've lived here for a long time. Our common isn't that cute. It really isn't. Like, to attract really good candidates when this is what you're going up against every single time, it's exceedingly challenging. So when I hear, oh my gosh, you guys must have given away the farm, I can promise you we did not. And if I could have given more, or we could have given more of a farm, we would have. The only group that we have that got more than a 3% COLA is our paraprofessionals, who do phenomenal work. I'm guessing most people my age or that haven't been in public schools in a while probably don't have a good handle on what paras do, but they are working directly with students all day, tirelessly. They're invaluable to us. When I had to hire in past years and hire somebody at $17.49 an hour, that was the part of the interview that I tried to just skip over if I could. It was like cringy, because they definitely could make more at a lot of other places. The committee very purposefully made some adjustments this year and pushed to make it more competitive. I won't speak for the committee, but I think if we could, we would offer or would like to pay more than the $21.46 an hour for the work that's being, or $21.26 an hour for the work that's being done. So it's a much more competitive wage, but we're still fighting tooth and nail to be even more competitive. Any question on any of that stuff? Sorry to talk so long. All right. So here, kind of all over the place, but with that FY26 budget, what's before you tonight, that total at $47,846,071 are those contractual increases that I just talked about. It includes the 5 positions, the instrument lease, and that transportation increase. We touched on earlier the cost drivers that make up 97% of the increase, so those new positions, the COLA, steps and lanes, the sub increase, special ed tuition increases, and then technology. I will talk, I'd mentioned that $200,000. So the adjustment that we made from that full budget that you've seen for months of $200,000 is in large part thanks to some responsive and very good thinking on the part of our special education director, Nicole McDonald. We became aware of a need in the area to potentially, well, let me give you a little backstory. We were looking at possibly moving away from or dissolving our medically fragile program at Grafton High School. And I think I had talked about this with the original reductions, where we had one student left in the program, and that student already is tuitioned in from another town. But we've got teacher, we've got the nursing staff, we have the space, we have a vehicle with the wheelchair lift, we have all the equipment. Like, we have done this, we know how to do it. Great program. The one student leaving the program is going to the GAIN program, the 18 to 22. So it's not on bad terms, it's all great. But at the same time, Nicole became aware of another program locally that because of finances, it wasn't going to be able to continue. We have more self-made internal programming than most districts. So people were calling Nicole saying, we've got students that, of course, they'd rather send the student to a local town than into Boston. Or, you could be an hour plus away, there and back every day at tremendous cost. So we did some work, and what we are going to do is to maintain that medically fragile program at Grafton High School. It will be designed entirely for, as it currently is constituted, to utilize out-of-district tuitions. So we will bring in revenue that will cover the costs of all the staffing that we have currently. With just 4 students, we will generate a profit of at least $200,000 annually. A student could move in tomorrow in Grafton that may fit into that program. But if nobody moves in our pipeline, if you will, we have an upper elementary student right now who, when gets to the secondary level, will fit right into this existing program. So 4, and we're all set, and we are very, very confident that we'll have 4 students. We already have a few in the pipeline in just the 2 weeks that we've been working on this.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Is the program designed to accommodate 4? Is that like our max?
Nope, not at all.
Cool.
I don't know if we have an actual max number, if we do, Nicole, but I think judging by the space, I'm going to guess 7 or 8,
Okay.
and we'd be, it wouldn't shock me if we get there relatively quickly.
Wonderful.
Madam Chair.
Christie.
Dr. Cummings. So it's $200,000 net, is what you're
Correct.
saying. And so what would it be per student, the tuition per student?
We haven't set that yet, but over 90,000.
Over 90,000 a
Yeah.
student. And then what is the cost associated with each student?
This is where it gets tricky. If they have a one-to-one, what is covered, when we haven't figured that out because we have to work with each individual district. So there's going to be some differentials in there, but we're going to have now 1 teacher and 1 nurse. I don't know if it's going to be an LPN or the nurse.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay.
Is there anything else you want me to touch on in terms of the budget?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Do you want me to go away?
No.
Or do you want me to speak to the middle ground piece?
Nope, you're gonna wait on
Don't.
that. We're gonna
Alright.
do the vote first, and then we'll
Okay.
talk about the middle ground. But you can stay right there.
I will.
All right. I will take a motion first.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 operating budget in the amount of $47,846,071.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion is open. Any discussion from the committee? I would like to point out that on the document that's in the book, just because I want to see you do this every year, I really like the way you broke out the 2 cost centers. Not as part of the motion per se, but it's right there so that people can see.
100% Kathleen.
Oh, excellent job, Kathleen. Thank you. I like that a lot. I think it's important to show where the increases are in a very basic. There's lots of fancy charts and graphs, and I think people's eyes can just cross, but that just lays it all out. It's all personnel, and very little of it is non-personnel. So non-salary personnel, excuse me. Comments, questions from the committee?
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
As a member on the board who does have many degrees in accounting and finance and is more than qualified and has many years' work experience in educational budgets, I'd like to say thank you to Kathleen. She's done an amazing job and has spent hours with me going over each and every number we have gone over. So I would just like to thank her for all her hard work.
Second.
And I'd also like to thank James Edward for his hard work as well.
Makes my day. It was mostly Kathleen.
It was all Kathleen. We were there. Reluctantly.
Definitely.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? No. All right, thank you. All right, so now we can talk about the middle ground, which is
Okay.
not up for a vote tonight, just so we're clear.
Correct. So this middle ground idea came out of the last tri-committee meeting. I don't remember the date, but a couple weeks ago,
It was the
3,
Thursday after our meeting, so the 20.
end of
27th.
February. Okay, and the TRICOM is made up of representatives from Finance Committee, School Committee, and the Select Board. And there was a very good discussion about different options. Not a shocker, the three basic options are no override and reductions, a full override, and then obviously some kind of middle ground. The task given to myself and the town administrator, Evan, was for, on the school end, to look to land around 750,000 in reductions, and 250 on the municipal side, and then 500 to be looked at around like stabilization. And Evan was tasked with, if it's stabilization, how does that work? How does that fund get resupplied, and what's the plan for that? So in terms of the school piece, I obviously took the lead with that. So here are those three buckets. We looked, what we did, it just happened to have Nicole's genius at the same time we were looking at the reductions. So how could we what reductions would we keep on the table and combine that with creative increased revenue? And that is creative. I don't know of another district that would have a program that is truly made up of students who are tuitioned in entirely. So that's what we looked at. Broke it down into 4 buckets, as we did when looking at the $1.6 million reduction, the revenue generation, that non-personnel supplies, programming, and supports. So what would we reduce to get to around 750? We landed on a little over 809,000. We talked about the revenue generation. So this is what was remaining. Those non-personnel reductions, those remain unchanged, the same reductions that were outlined in the reduction of 1.6 million. Kathleen did a wonderful job looking at across 45 budget lines and knocking them down to free up 162,000. We are we would move forward with that administrative shift. Myself and Joanne Stockland, we tried to hold down the HR fort, if you will, through November, and set aside 50,000 for some kind of part-time human resource services from November to the end of the fiscal year. We would keep that 0.5 preschool reduction on there based on the anticipated enrollment in numbers next year. Nicole is very confident that that's a reduction to be made. Instead of reducing by 3 curriculum coordinators, we would reduce 2 of them. We would continue to do or look to reduce a technology position. We would stick with the reduction of the maintenance position. That position would not need, because there's a retirement attached to it, we wouldn't backfill that, so that wouldn't be an unemployment position. And then lastly, the math intervention position at the middle school would be eliminated. So 6 positions in total, 2 could qualify for unemployment. So that combined with the revenue generation gets us just over 809,000. And
Dr. Cummings.
Yes.
You were only tasked with coming up with 750 though.
Yep, I was.
Yes. And as much as I appreciate the 809, go back a slide. Could we be able to save the preschool teacher?
If we had to put money back, I'd have to give it some thought. I'm pretty confident that preschool, that halftime section is not going to be needed next year. But I could certainly give that more consideration and talk about it with Nicole if we did go down this road. I'm probably most concerned actually with about 60,000 out of maintenance that's included in that 162. But you'll hear about capital in a minute, but Frank and I are probably at a 9 in terms of worry about our ongoing roof struggles, and that's high on our priority list. It's unfortunately it's throwing good money after bad, chasing leaks, etc. Until we get the roof situation resolved at North Street Elementary and the middle school. So it's certainly, to give you a super long answer, we could definitely take a look at it, but it would be a challenging decision.
Well, if I could just interject real quickly, my understanding is that the demand for half-day preschool has plummeted. That it simply doesn't suit the needs of members of our community. Families really are looking for a full-day option. I see it online all the time. Parents, they go for the lottery, they don't get it, and then they're looking. So I wouldn't think that the enrollment would be there to necessitate that position being kept. Is that
In
what
our
you're basing?
our program is driven by special education needs. That's every piece of ours. So it all goes back to not necessarily interest even in the program. Our program itself is dictated by the number of students we have coming up through early intervention that we need to provide services around, if you will. I do have a full write-up. I don't think I shared it with the committee yet, from Nicole about preschool.
Okay.
So that would be the general plan. Obviously, things could change too. We could have a huge spike in the number of kids that come up through early intervention that we just didn't see coming, and you just have to make that move. In yellow are with this scenario, these are the positions that come off of the 1.6, if you're wondering. So obviously grade 7, yeah,
It would be 1.4 now, correct?
correct. Yep. So these are off, and none of this is obviously set in stone. We've talked to everybody about the possibility, but things are still very much in flux, and that obviously we've got state numbers or state funding that's yet to be decided. We've got the governor's budget, but not the House or Senate yet, so that's going to be finalized in April or May. Anything I can tell you about this?
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
So even this middle ground, right? So the next year,
Yep.
this just sort of addresses this year. Like we'll
it
still
does,
have
it-
a challenge in the subsequent year.
No,
and I guess.
and this is my take, I'm not speaking
Yep.
on behalf of the TRICOM. My thinking would be if a middle ground is pursued, it gets obviously there are other pieces on the municipal side. I can't speak for Evan, I can't speak for stabilization, et cetera. But if you could get through FY26, knowing you have to have an override that next year, it definitely gives more time if we being the town let its guard down and say, oh, we'll deal with that late next spring when it's forced upon us. But if we proactively were communicating about that need, and as a town figuring out what that level of service is, et cetera, that would be one plus to that. The other piece is if these aren't brought back, that decreases. Say it's 800,000. If you can reduce by 800,000, which won't be easy, but these aren't also easy times. If you keep that off for the following 5 years in a 5-year override, you're looking at a decrease of 4 million in total. So if you're trying to get in a time where overrides are not, less popular than something that's universally unpopular, knocking that number down on the town and school side, there's probably some wisdom to that just being discussed.
Okay.
Other questions from the committee? This is great. Is there any good news?
That 200,000.
Well, all right,
Good news,
it's
good
been a few
news.
minutes since we had that.
Oh, Madam Chair, I have a question
Go ahead.
for logistic wise. So, because things went bonkers, like off the rails after the TRICOM committee meeting, and things haven't been really communicated well to the chair of the TRICOM committee meeting, which is myself. We were supposed to get back together and present before the 18th, and then it was brought to my attention that the select board wants everybody. Do we have? And when is this getting discussed? I guess
super
is my
meeting?
The
question.
so-
Super meeting. I know we don't have a final date yet, but can we
It's
publicly
gonna be
talk
next
about
week.
that? It's
gonna be
gonna be
next
next week.
Yeah, I have tentative information that I don't want to talk about publicly
That's fine.
just yet, but
But I'm just saying, like, for the people like this, just
there
is-
will be 2 meetings next week
okay.
of the whole 3 boards. We're meeting twice. We're going. That's my understanding.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't
Great.
know. I don't know what Tricom's doing. I haven't heard.
No, TRICOM, I guess, and I'm fine to just admit that the TRICOM, I fought for it. It clearly doesn't work. Everybody needs to have their say, and that's super awesome and important. So, from what I understood, that was not officially told to me, is that
Wait, we're fired for?
I think
You and
that
I?
these supercom or super meetings are gonna. It just doesn't. It should work. It doesn't. I'm not gonna. It has nothing to do with ego. Like, great. Yeah, we can bring it back if we have.
We made some headway with the no 3-year.
So you're not going to
good
show
work,
us
Christy.
the other slide? I saw a slide pop up about. It looked like it said federal.
Oh, that was if you asked.
I'm asking.
Hey, I should have asked earlier.
Asking now.
I interrupted. Sorry.
We'll blame Laura. Are there any? There's no questions on Zoom, right, Mandy? Okay, cool.
So there was I anticipated a question about federal grants or entitlement grants. This is what we receive annually. I haven't seen anything that would, there's a lot of talk about what happens if Department of Education is broken up, disbanded, eliminated, what have you. On my end, I haven't seen anything that indicates that the money wouldn't be still provided to districts, but it might be done differently. Most of these actually right now, the money does go through DESE. It's federal money, but it goes through DESE, and DESE is the ones in charge of making sure that they're written correctly, that they are just big, cumbersome spreadsheets, but they need to be filled out pretty much perfectly with DESE, and that's work
So
that
DESE
takes place.
determines how much we get
Over the
on each
summer.
of those
Correct.
over
Yep,
the summer.
yep.
But that only.
So you can see it fluctuates. I mean, with banner year in FY22, but that was
Excellent.
a lot.
Are you formulating a question?
No, I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's not really a question, more of a comment or feedback, I suppose. Dr. Cummings.
Yes.
Well, I really do like the new budget book. Going forward, it's very difficult, and I've spoken with Kathleen about this too, like to tie the grant numbers to what's being presented in the budget book. Can we?
If you've talked to her, I'm sure she is on it.
She's on it, yeah.
Yeah. I have the utmost faith in her.
Okay. More good news. Okay.
Oh, and I realized the original for FY21 and 22, as I sit here and look at it, I'm like, gosh, we'd never get over $1 million. That was, and I didn't include them here, but we also had ESSER federal
yeah.
grant money. So you can, a typical year is somewhere in the 900s for us. And again, it's very specialized. We can't just spend it on whatever we want. We actually have to pair with area private schools. Touchstone, for example, in Grafton, they get a portion of this money. It's a small amount, but it's important, and it goes to language acquisition. The bulk of it is for special education. A lot of salaries.
Amazing. Thank you. Anything else? I'm gonna let Jay have a break.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Jay. As always. Frank, you ready? What did you say?
That he was born ready.
I was worried. I saw him walk out. I don't know. Did he have to go?
Gave up.
Hi,
Hi.
thanks for welcoming me back.
Thanks for being here.
I have a briefer presentation, a little bit modified from what I reviewed with the committee back in November, and updated, obviously, with. So next year, or for next fiscal year, we're going to be asking for $540,000. Typically, I think we ask historically somewhere between 800 and 900,000. This number is reduced partially because of the roof issue at North Street Elementary School that we needed some money this year to pay for. That was unexpected. So below are the 5 items that are being asked for next year specifically, and then I have them detailed a little bit here. This is the fire alarm panel. Given the HVAC update at the middle school, the HVAC system has, I'm debating how boring you want me to be. The HVAC system has duct smokes in the system, and they have to tie back to the panel, and our existing panel does not have the capacity. It's basically the alarm either goes off or the alarm isn't going off. There's no like trouble status that you can tie back to the panel with the duct smokes. So we have to upgrade the panel. And the estimated cost, we've gotten several estimates already, is around $60,000 to do that. We thought we were going to have to change the panel and the devices, but we do not have to change the devices. There are hybrid panels that will work with the existing devices, which are perfectly good. Started with the middle school. Thought you guys would like that. The water heater at South Grafton is presently leaking. It's not dangerous or anything, but it needs to be replaced, and that is a picture of it. It's old Ironsides there, and it needs to be before they can replace it. They actually have to cut it with a torch-like tool and remove it in chunks because it's very large. And the estimated cost to do that is about $40,000. I'm happy to stop and explain any of this as we go. At Millbury Street Elementary School, Millbury Street, the roof is okay in relative terms compared to all of our roofs. However, there are these porticos that overhang the main office, the library, sort of the parent entrance area. There's a little one down the other end, but for some reason that one doesn't leak. Those 3 leak, and we'd like to get the main office area fixed before the problems exasperate. The cost for that is around $80,000. Right now, presently, like in present time, in real time, the library was done last year. In real time, the entrance for the parents is being done right now. Started, I think, Friday, and they should be done by the end of this week. So that's pretty exciting. This one is the one that hurts a little bit. I think Dr. Cummins made reference to it in his presentation. Moving forward, until we repair until we replace the roofs at the middle school and North Street, as well as issues at the other schools, we're asking for $200,000 for repairs. We sent folks out, a couple of different teams out to do their best in the fall before the snow and ice came. At North Street, the middle school, South Grafton, and they did quite a bit of work there, and we still had a lot of problems with that last ice storm. It was really bad at North Street, really bad at the middle school. We did our best to try to troubleshoot it ourselves. The roofs are well beyond their lifespan. So you'll see in my presentation here that there's 200,000 in this year, 200,000 the next year, et cetera, until we can come up with a plan. Now, the good news is the town manager has put out for an audit of all the roofs in all the buildings in town, And I think that report's due any day if it's not already there. And I'm eager, I'm sure Dr. Cummins is as well, to sit with the town manager and his team and sort of brainstorm how we can get the roofs replaced, especially those two roofs specifically in the town, like a long-term plan. And finally, that's an actual picture from a company that we had hired this past summer to get our lights back going. If you recall, they sort of kept going out last year. The reason being they're very much damaged. That's exposed. Those are exposed wires way up high on those poles. And the estimated cost to replace those, you wouldn't replace them with the same type of lighting. In today's world, you change it over to LED, which is a lot less expensive to run. If we paid I think it's 180,000, we could get multiple colors. But I put in for 160,000 to repair those, so that it's very expensive to hire a person with a crane to try to jury rig them and change the bulbs with the burnt out bulbs. The bulbs are burning out, I believe, prematurely because there's probably some shorts with those. I can stop there if you have any questions about next year. That's next year.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can you go back one slide?
I can. Whoops.
Thank you. I just wanted to read that first sentence. There are active leaks at all of our schools.
Oh yeah.
That's all. That's all.
Yeah,
Continue
I'm
on.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
And
I mean,
that's another area in which we're not alone. I'm hearing the
Yeah.
same thing from other districts as well.
I mean, sometimes they're manageable, right? Like we know there's skylights in the hallway at North Grafton, and
You can predict where it's.
Ms. Flynn
Right.
is wonderful at sending me video and pictures, and she's like so on top of it. And we know that if it snows more than 5 or 6 inches, and then there's a melt, and it gets
That's
up
where it's
above the
coming in.
lip of the rubber near the skylight, it's gonna leak.
Coming in.
So we've tried to address it. I think we actually nailed it this last storm. I didn't get any videos, so
amazing.
that's something that we could manage ourselves. But the material is very expensive for roofs. The material itself is very expensive. So this would cover us trying to manage the smaller issues, as well as we just hired a company now that the snow thawed over the previous music room at North Street, where we lost a quarter of the room's ceiling tiles, just flooded, and they tore up what was there and like put down a new layer to try to get us through. For hopefully within 5 years we can get a new roof on that whole building.
It would be really great to
Not
to the bottom of it. I was not dinging you on doing.
Oh, no.
You're doing.
I don't cause the leaks. Mitigate them.
In the snow.
Anything else?
So,
Thank you.
again, I want to reiterate, we're talking about $400,000 over 2 years, and we've not replaced a single roof. We are just patching, managing.
Right.
Right?
So-
I mean, obviously, because a roof is like that much.
In the middle school roof is like uber challenging because it's a foam roof. It's one of the, according to every roofer I've spoken to and like a roofing expert consultant that we've used, the gentleman that did the audit for the town, there's no foam roof anywhere in New England. There's many in Florida.
I feel like you see a foam roof and you're like,
So there's one person that we can sort of use that repairs foam, but once it cracks, I mean, the repair is challenging. But he won't go on the roof if there's any water or any snow. So hopefully the weather maintains and doesn't precipitate, and we can get him out there later this week to try to address the A-Hall corner by the computer lab, because it's really bad at the middle school. Yeah. And we did our best. We spent most of the vacation trying to like mitigate that and clean that up ourselves. We clean the inside. I mean, it's clean on the inside, but it's still dripping water.
Is that the original roof to the building? Is that why?
I have no idea if it's original to the building. I can find that out for you though. I
I'm
do
just
have.
personally curious. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. I'm
the
just trying to
gym-
understand why we have a foam roof in New England.
Sure, we were living within our means.
100% not.
It's not?
Original. No, I want to say that was put on at least
Eagle
50
Scout.
years ago. And it was, again, we didn't have the funding to The same story.
So we
Roofs
could've-
are super expensive.
They are.
They're not, to
Super
be quite
expensive.
frank, like sexy and oh, that's an awesome roof. You don't see the middle school
We have
roof.
one that's good.
But boy, you see it. on-
Just that one part at Millbury Street that doesn't leak yet.
In the gym at Millbury Street at least.
So, whoops. I didn't go through these for subsequent years, but in the way this works is you prioritize as you get closer to the year, and then the town says how much they can give you. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they're probably not gonna give 1.9 million. So we just kick these down the road further. But in my previous presentations and in that capital plan that was shared in November, and I think Jay may have, did you share it again tonight?
It's in the dry folder.
It's okay. PA replacement at North Street is sort of a critical need. That was previously approved by town meeting, but the estimate that was earmarked for was like $40,000. There's no one that's going to come in. Like we brought in multiple companies, and our best bid is $143,000 to upgrade the PA system. There's the roof repair. Student activity vehicle, we spent a lot of money this year getting I don't know if you're aware of the Poppy van, back on the road. It's no longer a 7D vehicle. It doesn't qualify because it's not running the same route over and over. It's got a handicap wheelchair lift on that, but I think it's a 2005. Like it's old. It's really old, and it's sound, but it's not. The longevity of relying on that vehicle is limited. So we put in for a student activity vehicle that, of course, would be fully handicap accessible and be able to do field trips with special needs students and after school activities. Like our bowling team relies on it. Small teams sometimes use the van. We have a whole system now that works quite well. The turf field, you've heard me talk about the turf field needs. Like we spend a lot of money each year repairing all the seams, and by the end of the football season and soccer season, it's all torn up again. And we have a wonderful maintenance staff that they've taken it upon themselves to learn how to maintain turf fields and do a lot with training videos, and they're on top of that field like it's never been this well maintained. But the seams are they're really split if you walk the field and look. So Turf Field 1 is the one with the stands, the permanent stands, and I would call the stadium. And then Turf Field 2 is on for the following year. GMS, the exterior of that building is faded and rusty, the metal parts. Jay and I have joked in walking the parking lot that maybe we should just take a week off in the summer and get some staging and do it ourselves. But I put that in there for $80,000. We talked to a couple of painting companies. A field house at GHS, because we have to have bathrooms available for any activity we have at GHS. We have to pay custodians, and the minimum number of hours you pay custodians is 4 hours to have the building open. So long term, building a new field house out there or a field house out there would be a savings for the town. It doesn't look like it when you look at a big bill like $350,000. Various ADA improvements across GPS. I think we've done a decent job, but there's a lot of room to grow. We have a couple of walkways going in at North Street, and once the weather clears up a little bit, we've already encumbered the money. North Street and North Grafton elementary schools, so that their playgrounds will be fully accessible to all children. Those are going to go in, and then South Grafton, I don't know if anyone's seen the ceiling in South Grafton lately, but the popcorn it's been falling for years from what I understand. And it's a regular thing that the custodian just vacuums up. That's 27. I'm sorry, I'll wait if anyone has any questions about 27. No. And then for 28, again, whatever we don't get in 27 would just get kicked down the road more to 28. North Street has some repointing the brick so that we don't have additional water issues. Now we're on the walls. If we can get the roof done, then we can move on to the walls. There's that $200,000 for general roof maintenance and repair again. Turf field 2, I've already talked about. We're down to 2 trucks and a dump truck for maintenance, and the dump truck's pretty old, so we'd be looking for another, like a utility plow truck. We kind of need 3 plow trucks for when it snows. And then I keep putting it on the bleachers at GMS. I would love to see those replaced. It's Mr. Cummings, Dr. Cummings' favorite
So would our insurance company,
item.
I hear.
I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Oh, no? That's been on the capital list since I've been on the committee, so.
Okay.
Watched it get kicked down.
They're very old. They're very functional, but they're challenging to get in and out, to move in and out.
Yep.
So, exterior envelope and roofing concerns, those are the estimates that we've received, rough estimates. I've asked a couple of roofing companies to look at our square footage and look at the type of roof that we have, what it would cost for North Street, which I would do first, GMS I would do second, and then South Grafton also needs a new roof, and I would do that third. If it was up to me, but of course I would communicate and talk. Dr. Cummings and the town.
Before you put the roof on.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the order that I would do it.
Yeah, I
Any
have a
questions
teenage
about the
son
roofs?
who maybe could do some roofing projects this summer. Madam Chair,
Oh, go ahead.
thank you.
I have one more slide.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, is that okay?
Sure. Is it gonna make me want to thank you less?
These are other large or larger ticket items. The plow truck, we already replaced 1 plow truck this year. 2 were at end of life, and those are currently sitting at the fire station near South Grafton to for the fire department to work on them and practice like rescues with our trucks that don't really run. And then I just listed some other things that we're focused on that is we're either going to take care of through the maintenance budget, hopefully grants or sponsorship, with your approval, of course.
Well, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Frank, and your team. And you know, when you were going through all this, and actually, you know, Madam Chair was joking a little bit about good news, but you know, it is hard to sit. And we looked at Dr. Cummings' presentation, and he talked about, you know, the salaries and how hard our teachers work and our staff, our maintenance. We have less maintenance people; they're doing more work. I mean, I guess I just want to thank everybody for their hard work, and you know, all of you are very appreciated. We sometimes laugh to get through the pain, but you know, it is hard to go to work every day when your roof is leaking and you're cold or you're hot or you're, you know, I went in with Leora. We took a look at that music room. I mean, it's done, and you know, it can be a little, I guess, demoralizing, and that's maybe not the word I'm trying to use, but and so I guess just a thank you to everybody, and we see your hard work and appreciate you, and we're doing our best to try to show the town that, you know, our schools are worth it, staff is, and so are our kids.
We did dry out that roof. I don't know what day you saw it, but it's been dried out and the tiles have been replaced. That's another thing is we try to get it back as quickly as possible,
absolutely.
but we don't want to keep doing that if it's going to keep damaging the tiles. They're
My
expensive.
basement flooded on Thursday. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a lot of water.
Yeah.
It's a tough day all around.
Yeah.
But you know,
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Sorry, this is just a quick question that's not about the Capitol. What's the status of the air conditioning at GMS?
The status of the air conditioning, to the best of my knowledge, is it should be. Fingers crossed.
Three kids. Wonderful.
Good to go when it gets warm. In the next couple of months, we received approval to turn it on. It hasn't been turned on, so it needs to be troubleshot, I'm sure, like any new system. But there's a few, those duct smokes that are being wired back to show in the panel, as well as the electricians are doing work there after hours, where they're putting a shut off underneath every unit in the building, so you don't have to climb up on the roof to shut it off, so that you can test it from the inside the building. You don't have to. Getting on the roof at the middle school is challenging, and with a foam roof, we
With
want
a
as
foam
few
roof.
people on there as possible.
Thank you very much. And you certainly live up to the name for which my son has given you. The National Treasure.
Thank you.
Mr.
I get that a lot, actually.
I bet you do.
Anything else from the committee?
Amy, can I just mention one thing? I think you touched on that 500,000, and I think to somebody who isn't doing this on a daily basis, realizing we have six, and that's great. The town's definitely doing the best it can do. We've got maintenance and ongoing facility issues, townwide. It's not just the schools, but we have over 600,000 square feet. So 500,000, figure 83 cents a square foot, which is not by any means any normal industry standard, especially with older buildings getting so much use. So anytime we can get additional funds for facilities, it goes a long way. And I just wanted to thank Frank and his team have been small but mighty and doing a lot with very limited funding. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ooh.
Oh no, the whole meeting
Yeah, I
went
don't
down, Frank.
National treasure.
Well, he is the national treasure in some
He's
circles.
got jokes.
You don't need to share.
I do have slides.
Dr. Cummings just gets
I appreciate your
mad
time.
because we don't call him a
Thanks,
national treasure.
Frank.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Okay. Oh my God. Gosh. All right. You knocked me right out of the meeting.
I can probably share the slides if
Yeah.
you share them with me.
Do you have access to the drive?
This is it's almost
That's where
as
they are.
frustrating as finding out why there are so many songs about rainbows, right, Mr. Jefferson? Oh, he's not even paying attention.
School choice program PDF.
Here I come.
I think we just figured out where we could save some money. Frank.
Good old Frank. All right, I think I'm good. Hold on.
I know.
Doing stuff on Friday,
I
fixing
know, but he
stuff
messed
by
up our
himself.
meeting.
Sure did.
He saved.
I think I got it. Join.
Yeah, Batman's on it.
There we go. This looks good. I mean, I have the slides up on my screen, but that doesn't.
All
have
right,
any-
here.
No, same.
Yay.
All right, just a quick overview of school choice. I think you're at this point, everybody's familiar with it, but this program has been just fantastic for us over the last 10 years. We've brought in over $7 million thanks to this program that I think we've utilized exceptionally well. It allows parents to send their children to public schools in communities outside of the city or town that they live in. The tuition and the costs are paid by the sending district to the receiving district. It's not like they write out checks every day. That comes right off the top, if you will, through the Chapter 70 program. If we have more interest than we have available seats, we hold a lottery. We have a wait list that's very, very long, and every single year we've had to utilize the lottery. And once that access to the application doesn't guarantee you a space. A lot of people do think that if they fill out the application, they're in. Obviously, we've got to go through the lottery. Okay. This is what we have in terms of enrollment right now. In a very general sense, we aim for our rough benchmark is to have about 10 students per grade level. If obviously we don't have just one enrollment for every grade, that would make life ridiculously easy. We have, valleys and peaks. So in the valleys, we have more space to take advantage of economy of scale and have a couple more kids. In the bigger classes, we have fewer kids. And we've tried to never really push that envelope too much. I think I didn't put the number down, but I think it's about 129 kids in the program. We'll have 10 leave, and we will open up most likely between 10 and 15 kindergarten openings for the coming year. If the committee votes to remain open to choice, that is all the committee needs to do. The committee, and we take that vote and basically share it with the state, and it's a yes or no. It's not, you can put in additional information, but it's not 4 kids here, 3 kids there. It's just you're open or you're not. So I'm going to recommend that the school committee vote to continue Grafton's participation in the school choice program for the upcoming 25-26 school year. We would go through if the vote is affirmative, we would open up the registration or application process in April and then wait until we know what's going on budget-wise. Sometime in May, we hold the lottery that's quick and be able to, that same day, contact parents. So a few weeks later than usual, but still before June, we should have this all set. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Jay. Can you go back 2 slides?
Yep.
No, sorry, 1 slide. I wanted the graph. I just wanted to reiterate again, I know we say this every year, but I just want to say again, what a fantastic job you've done with this. We've talked a lot over the years about how it's easy for districts to get greedy and think that they can solve budget problems by admitting mass quantities of school choice kids, and then things change and they're stuck with these kids. You can't just send them back. And I love that we've been able to introduce new students. We've been able to introduce diversity into our community through this program. It's been able to help us out financially, and I just think it's been so well done that I'm an emphatic yes tonight on this.
I should bring up just 2 other points that I usually touch on. Once a student is admitted, be it kindergarten or an upper grade, they are with us in a full Grafton student all the way through graduation. So people do think, as you alluded to, you have tough times and send the school choice kids back wherever that might be. That's not how it works. And if a student through the lottery is accepted, whether they come in with an IEP, they may already be a 3rd grader with a paraprofessional or whatever it is, that cost is picked up entirely by the sending district.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
Dr. Cummings, just a quick question. How do you determine which school the child goes to, for instance, kindergarten, South Grafton, North Grafton? Somebody asked me that.
Once in a while they'll have a request. Often it's based on either family members. They don't live in Grafton, but grandma lives 2 streets down from North Grafton Elementary. Sometimes it's that type of thing, and or daycare. Assuming that there's no specific request, we just look at class size and try to balance it.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I move that the committee vote to accept school choice for the coming year, 2025-2026 school year.
Second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are skipping the mid-year goals review tonight. Jay has been very busy with budget things. So we will revisit that next week. Quarterly collaborative report, are we skipping that as well?
There's no need to vote on it. I just need to put that before the committee.
Okay.
It was the audit and one other document from Aspet Valley Collaborative.
So just to notify us that it's in the drive.
It really, I'm not even sure to what degree the state's looking, but maybe 7-8 years ago, there was some financial, very negative things that went on, not with one of our collaboratives, but in the state. And as a result, they put in all kinds of legal requirements. One of those is to have quarterly reports. And they used to have a team that looked and actually checked and would pester you, but I haven't been pestered in a long time.
Okay. So it's in the drive. Everybody take a
Correct.
minute to review it at some point and let Jay know if you have questions.
Thanks.
Superintendent report.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes.
are we doing the transportation?
Oh, correct. Yes, sorry about that. Thank you. Crossed off the wrong thing. Transportation contract.
Yes, so tonight we're looking for the committee's approval of a 3-year contract with AA Transportation. That would, 3-year contract starting on July 1st, 2025. After the 3 years, we have 2 optional renewal years. Rates being for year 1, 11.9% increase, years 2 and 3, 6%. And then if we do renew, the 2 individual years are 7% for each of those years. While these numbers are high, we'd always love a lower percentage. We talked at a previous meeting about an area district that was looking at a 40+% increase from 2 providers. So given the level of service, the ongoing relationship that's super positive with AA Transportation, I think this is a tremendous win for the Grafton Public Schools, and I would certainly encourage the committee to approve the contract. And then before I stop talking, Kathleen did yeoman's work on this. I think our first full bus bid process, and it's quite a process, but she did a beautiful, beautiful job, and I think it worked out beautifully for us.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Dr. Cummings, can you just clarify how many bids we received?
We received, we received 1 sealed bid, and we had 8 requests for bid specifications. And with this process, we had to have myself, Frank, who helps us, Kathleen does a financial piece, he does the ongoing transportation part. We had to hold kind of formalized meetings, and whoever kind of came in, showed up, took the bids, asked questions, etc. So a series of meetings, it ended up with 1 sealed bid received, and that was AA.
Wow. Is that more than we've traditionally?
Nope, that's been,
The 8 seems high.
8 seems high. You could also, now you could do it electronically. You could request it when you back in the old days, you had to go in person. So I think that was it. I mean, we had like out-of-state companies, I think, or companies we hadn't even heard of, but that I don't think would have come in if it was in person. So that is a change. But last time we had 1 sealed bid as well, and that was AA.
Any other questions? Any questions from the gallery? All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I move to accept the bid from AA Transportation for the next 3 years as presented.
Second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Kathleen.
Start on that contract.
Yeah.
What?
I'll go start the contract.
Good
I was
night.
say, you have it for us to
Thank
sign
you.
tonight, or?
We'll soon, this will go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Kathleen.
Kathleen. Have a good night.
Too.
Superintendent report.
I just have a couple quick things. Obviously, with Kathleen and the team, been doing a ton of work on the budget. Attended the community reading day over at North Grafton Elementary School last week. I'm sure we'll hear more about that. And also last week I didn't attend with South Grafton Elementary, but I know a number of you did. When I went in to read, they had up on the smart board a photo of me. I was wearing, when I went to talk to the kids, a blue shirt and a red tie, and they had the picture that was taken of me my very first day, and like right next to me, like life size, and the kids, they were kindergarten, but they were brutal. You look so old. That looks nothing like you now. It was rough. But otherwise it was great. And then lastly, very exciting, Anne Marie Ballack and I, with Mandy's help, are going to be installing a new feature in the next GPS newsletter. So later this month, we're having a driver of the month feature to try to help encourage good driving habits.
Oh, of students, not bus drivers.
No,
Parents.
parents,
Wait.
like realizing if there are two lanes, you need to stay in one of those lanes.
I have a lot of
And
complaints.
speed, it's gonna be very competitive, and there is gonna be a gift certificate. We're hoping for a Fitzy's Car Wash gift certificate.
Awesome.
So Miss Brahm, out of everybody on the committee right now, is in the lead. And there's a
I
guy.
don't respect that
Well-
decision, Dr. Cummings.
There's
That-
still time.
There
No,
is-
no,
there
there's
is
no time, not with him.
I don't even feel like that's fair. Some of us don't.
Well,
Some of us have our kids driving
No,
themselves.
Nothing-
some of
nothing's
us
stopping you.
have a
You can drive
biased
through.
crossing guard
You
who
don't have
doesn't
to actually drop them.
enjoy little red cars.
All right, ladies
All
and
right.
gentlemen, we still have a
That's
meeting.
all I have.
Thank you, Jay.
Break.
Here I sat here asking what else could he possibly have to talk about. Delaney, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thanks for coming.
Of course. This week we have junior course selection, sophomores the following week, and freshmen the week after that. G-term selection's also going on right now. Class of 2026 is having their spring vendor fair March 15th, 9:30 a.m. at JHS. Mr. JHS is this Friday, March 14th at Grafton High School Auditorium. Spring sport tryouts begin next week. Make sure all athletes are properly registered through Power School to avoid any issues at tryouts. And GYLA Pancake Breakfast is this Saturday morning at Millbury Street Elementary School.
Awesome. Not to put you on the spot, but could you tell us a little bit about G-term and what some of the cool options are this year?
Yeah. So instead of finals, we have G-term the last 2 full days of school. And we have options such as going to Boston and doing the Freedom Trail, volunteering in Worcester, volunteering in Grafton, backyard games.
Theme.
There's a
You don't have to tell us the
scrapbooking
whole. Oh, a scrapbook.
and lots of other options.
Oh, nice. Very cool. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. Anybody have any questions for Delaney? All right, Delaney, you are free to go if you wish. A little earlier than last time. Future agenda. We are almost there. Okay. So, mid-year goals are gonna move down from the 11th, which is today, to the 25th. We will have our school update featuring North Grafton Elementary School and South Grafton Elementary School, as well as a teaching and learning report. And we'll hear about STAR test results, which tie directly to Dr. Cummings' goals. So that's good timing. We probably should have come up with that on our own. After that, everything looks, we're keeping things open. We don't know if we're gonna need any more budget discussions. We may need to pass a new budget. We don't know, so we're just gonna try to keep it as open as we can. We are slated to review facility fees on May 13th, so I know Jay is getting ready for that. And we have the school update from GHS on the 13th as well.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
could we try to get on the agenda in the spring, the high school handbook? By policy, we're supposed to be reviewing it in the spring for the following year. I know that last year it got pushed off to the summer because of the new policy manual, but now that the rights and responsibilities book is done, it shouldn't be quite as cumbersome for the high school.
I could take a look and see about that. I can't promise anything because, you know, it's almost spring, so we'll see. Maybe it has to be, when they come back for their school update, if they can manage it.
And I'll speak, I've got a meeting with Tracy Kalo tomorrow. She may have been kind of chipping away at it.
Okay. Good.
She obviously wants to have their guidebook or whatever we end
Yeah.
up calling it settled. So I'll check in tomorrow morning to see where she's at with
Fantastic.
that.
Actually, Dr. Cummings, a quick question if we talk about handbooks. At one point, we were saying that each unit, a bargaining unit, paras, teachers would have their own individual not guidebook.
More handbooks? Yeah.
Guidebook, is that still
Right.
happening?
I don't remember ever saying or thinking that in my life.
I haven't, if you
What
want me
do
to
we
send
have
an email,
now?
I can send it back
It
to
was
you.
something that came up in, I believe, the paraprofessional negotiations, and then we pivoted and went toward a district-wide employee
Okay.
handbook. And as far as I'm aware, that's where it rests now.
Anything else? Approval of minutes.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
I move the committee approve the minutes from the February 25th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
There were a lot.
What?
There were a lot of minutes.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Rebecca
Thank
does
you,
a great
Rebecca.
job.
Rebecca's unbelievably thorough.
Yes.
Rebecca
She's
kills
such a
it
great
at
job.
everything.
She's
She kills it as a fifth grade teacher. She kills it at
She's amazing.
minutes.
She is great.
She's awesome. All right. Anything on that? Other than Rebecca's awesome.
No, but she is.
Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now she's gonna have to type
She's
all
gonna
that
type
up
that
next
up.
time.
It's okay, Rebecca.
Sorry.
You don't have to type it all.
Well, I hope she enjoys typing.
I
That's how
will
much we
say-
love her.
Leora and I used the minutes during our policy subcommittee meeting. Like, we went back to like look through minutes to see them, and it was super helpful.
It's
Great.
super.
The level of detail is indeed very helpful.
We'll move to the warrants.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the committee approve warrants 35 and 36.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Policy. All right, policy subcommittee. What do we want to do? What's your pleasure?
So here's our pleasure. I guess there was a technical issue, which I will look into, for IFK, and our changes weren't visible to everybody online, so you didn't have, also, I know you got them very late.
Yep.
So I apologize. So we're gonna pass over that and bring them back next time and make sure it's good online. Although you can see them, you can bring this home and look if you want.
So, yeah, and that's the that's policy ICAF graduation requirement.
You didn't see it either, right?
Nope, I don't have it either. Yep. perfect.
Yeah,
Okay, so it is at the book, but we just
Yep.
got it, so we're
Right.
gonna wait.
We're gonna
Yep.
wait on that.
book
Now,
is great.
it's up to the committee's pleasure on this one. This wasn't online. We're recommending deletion, and we can discuss why, after we make a motion. But again, we can hold as well, because I don't think it was clear what we wanted to do with it in the book, so that's up to you guys. We are also happy to hold until next week. Also, if people just wanna go home.
I mean, I'm fine with deleting it.
Yeah, let's make a motion.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
I move the committee delete policy JICH-R. No. Yes, JICH-R breathalyzer testing protocol.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
So, Madam Chair, we are bringing this, we had brought this over the summer, and then we wanted to hold on it, so now we're bringing it back. We wanted it before prom season, or I guess it's just a night, really, it's not a full season. So this was, a while ago, this was something that Grafton did. They had implemented a breathalyzer testing protocol. Currently, that isn't our practice. We don't have any staff members who are actually trained to use the breathalyzer. We do want to stress that this doesn't mean that we still have a policy where you're not allowed to drink or do any drugs, tobacco, etc. at any school events, and that the police may be called, and the police could come and do a breathalyzer on you, but this policy is really doing away with our staff being able to breathalyzer with you. They used to have a sign off. And we've talked to the high school, and they'll still have a sign off probably about not using drugs or alcohol, but it will not be you might get breathalyzed by a teacher who's not qualified to breathalyze you. So this is our recommendation, that we would like to get rid of this. This is also, MASC does not have a breathalyzer protocol. And it really is just that we're kind of covering ourselves as well, that we're putting staff in a situation that they're not really trained or prepared to do.
And for most events, there is police presence anyway. This was last reviewed in 2013. It's just not relevant to the way we do things today, so.
I just have one question. Do we own a breathalyzer device as a
I
district?
think we technically do. It's probably deep in some closet, but
Could we not own that device?
sure. I don't even,
Could
if
we
you
sell
paid
it
me
to
to
raise
find
money?
I mean, it's probably so old it probably doesn't work.
100% correct.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
probably
it's just,
true.
it's so odd. I also, and I've said this many times before, I'm not a fan of protocols and policies mixing.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yep.
Same.
Agreed.
so I agree with this. Okay. Anything else?
No. Great.
Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of deleting this policy?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
Member reports.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I'm gonna go first. I'll be brief, but I do have a lot. But I don't steal anybody's thunder. Let's see. I went to 2 community readings day. Special thanks to Mrs. Cosman's class. They said I was better than a firefighter, and hugged me, and they were amazing. Mrs. Geiser's class at North Grafton Elementary School, also amazing and wonderful. I love to read, so thanks for including me. I went to the spaghetti dinner at North Street Elementary School to help support our 6th grade students. That was a wonderful event. It was like the highlight of my social life. I really missed those events. I was glad I wasn't running it, but thanks to the North Grafton PTG for that, and the 6th graders were amazing. I also, well, I'll maybe let Leora talk about but I was also on the state meeting about what we can do for finances with our state government, and I know we're going to talk about that later. March 19th at noon, there is a Division 4, that's our division, Lunch and Learn, where you can get on and talk about, we left it very open. It's going to be just, hey, get on, and we're going to do breakouts, and whatever your concerns are, you can talk about it with other committees in the area. So we hope to have a good group on that. And let's see, I think that's all and TRICOM, which we already talked about, but Christy and I did really well, and we agreed, and we were super excited about that. And I'm kind of sad that we don't get to go again.
You and I can just go.
Yeah, well, Christy and I can just go. Maybe we'll do something.
We'll just do
something
more
else.
fun
Something else.
Well, I do think that moving forward, TRICOM is going to have a role to play
Yes.
in keeping on meeting, continuing to review projections, keeping that discussion going. Because one of the things that I've heard a lot from people is, oh, well, we haven't heard anything since 2020.
Yeah.
So that's
They're
why
not
they're
watching
surprised and, why are we still here? It really, TRICOM should be an ongoing thing. And so I hope that does continue to move forward and continue to meet. Whether or not we get an override, because again, we're going to be back in the same position.
And it has met. And when people, it's unfortunate. I can understand members of the public, but members of our government, that's an unfortunate thing when people don't know. And I think that's good questions to ask during campaign season.
Other member reports.
Most of mine will be covered in
Okay.
correspondence.
You want to go?
Yeah, sure. I also attended North Grafton, South Grafton Community Reading Days. I had the pleasure of doing a motion break with the preschoolers where I got to dance in high heels, and that was exciting for everybody in the classroom. And then I'd like to talk about, just for a brief second, I had the pleasure of accompanying the middle school math team to Burlington as their pseudo coach. I was filling in for Steve Koss. And beyond thanking Steve Koss for all his work with working with the middle schoolers, a huge thank you needs to go out to the high school senior, Christian Riddle.
Yeah.
3 years ago, he came to Mr. Koss and asked if he could start a math team because they had one at the high school and he wanted to run it with Mr. Koss's help. The first year, the team got 4th place in divisions. Second year, they got 3rd place, and this year, they got 1st in divisions, but in states, we got 1st place in divisions. So we'll just end that there with the beautiful trophies and such. So a huge thank you to Christian, and I hope that even with him graduating this year, that continues into many years into the future. And it was great. The only little hiccup in the whole thing was that I was not given the bag of calculators or pencils, and so I had a fun run to Target in the middle of the, which I did not even, that's my donation, Dr. Cummings, to you, was 4 calculators.
But that's why they lost.
No, it wasn't the calculators. No, there's this other team that's called the okay, I won't
No, we're not going to do that.
I won't get into it.
No, we'll do that later, offline. All right, Rebecca, do you have anything for us?
I don't have any past reports, but I wanted to say one thing that's not necessarily school related, but the last middle school dance for Project Friendship is this Friday, I think. Is that correct? This Friday? I've forgotten what week we're in. This time change is killing me, but yes, it is this Friday. And so that's wonderful. It's St. Patrick's Day themed. And then there are a couple of really great fundraisers for the PTO coming up. South Grafton is doing a trivia night, and there's another one.
Spring Fling.
Spring Fling. Yes, that's what it's called, and like something that we're going to. So that'll be awesome.
I do have a few things.
All right, go ahead.
So I am part of a team for the South Grafton PTO trivia team.
As am
Trivia
I.
night. Excellent. Oh, I look forward to wiping the floor with you. With my colleagues, Andy Jefferson and Connie Roy. And Stella Dekas. Also enjoyed the spaghetti dinner and the reading at South Grafton Elementary. I got to read in Mrs. Mahoney's class, who I love very much. So that was great. And then I'm veering into correspondence, but a number of us, along with Dr. Cummings, took part in a call last week with, it was sort of organized by the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools and the Massachusetts Association of Superintendents. Of school superintendents, and it was really focused on there is a surplus of money that was raised through the Fair Share Act, and it was about advocacy for getting some of that money to different districts. So to that end,
Hence the letter.
That's the letter.
Under
Yeah.
correspondence.
Madam Chair, can
Yeah.
I add? I also wanted to add that there is a hearing
yes,
on May 23rd, or March 23rd at
UMass.
UMass.
Yes,
Amherst.
Yep. What did I say? UMass
just said
Amherst.
UMass.
Oh, UMass Amherst. I'll send out time. Rebecca and I are definitely going. They've asked people from the community to come, select board members to come, to show force. You don't have to necessarily speak, but we need to really get there and show our support when people are asking, what are we doing and how are we advocating? This is one way we are. We need the state to change their funding. We need to pressure our state rep and our state senator to give us some of those money. And make sure it doesn't just go to the cities and rural areas in Massachusetts. Not that they don't also deserve it, but we need our fair share. So I'll send out more info on that. But I'm attending, as is Rebecca.
Yep. I'm not able
She
to
can't.
attend because I'm traveling for business, so my contribution is to work on this letter. The Mass Association of Regional Schools kind of provided a template, worked closely with Dr. Cummings to make it Grafton specific. He was extremely helpful in doing so. And so one thing I'd like to make a motion is that we, as a school committee, accept and sign on to this letter to be sent to our representatives.
Was that a motion? Okay.
Is that a
Yes.
motion?
Yes, that was the motion.
Motion made and seconded. I think the letter is excellent. I think it's different from the letter that I spoke about at the last meeting that I believe is going to go to select board next week. That we will also sign on to. And I'm overjoyed to see that this letter features a graph put
Yes.
together by Finance Committee member Greg Marr.
Yes, it does.
You'll be seeing this graph a lot, I think, but it's a great representation of the problem with our funding sources. And I see this graph in my sleep now.
I bet.
Imagine my surprise when I opened this attachment and saw the graph that I see in my sleep every night. No, wonderful job. Thank you to Leora and Jay for your work on this. Are there any comments, questions?
Can
about
I
the letter?
give some more? Just sort of.
Sure.
I want to be clear that it's one-time monies at this point that we're asking for. It's a surplus that existed from this year. It will be given to us this year, then can be help alleviate some issues for next year. There is also an ask for ongoing money, but that's very up in the air.
That's the next letter.
Yeah, so it's very much, getting more circuit breaker funds, having more of those special education tuition and transportation costs covered by the state. And regional school transportation, which doesn't really touch us, and some other items. So it's a rising tide that will lift all boats. It will help other school districts, no matter where they are. But it could certainly help with where we find ourselves for next year.
I would personally like to see a copy go to the governor.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I think we should include the governor on
Yep.
that
I
as
think
well.
that's a great idea.
And I also, if I may, I wanted to point out the one line item, it's only $250,000, which looks small in the grand scheme of things, but to reconvene the K through 12 Funding Review Commission, it's like, I feel like even if
Yep.
you don't give us any of the other stuff, can we at least do that? So,
And I believe there is a bill.
yep,
Oh, it's right there.
Chairman
Yep.
Lewis's bill.
Yep.
Excellent. That's how much it costs to convene a commission?
I guess so.
Well, they get
had it on
paid,
the-
that's why. That's
Yeah.
what it is. We don't
I
know.
wish we had it up so that the people at
I
home
know.
could see.
Well,
We can post.
we'll post it online once it's in the drive. We can post a link.
Yep.
So,
Great job.
Thank you, Leora.
fantastic.
Leora.
Thank
Thank
you
you
to
for
Jay.
taking initiative and getting it done quickly.
all right. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Is that going to go out on paper or physical signatures or no?
I don't remember how they asked. We'll look.
Okay.
They had specific, I tuned out after a while.
It was.
They got
There were a
little-
lot of
little
people
repetitive.
Got a
talking.
little long.
I'll say.
But somewhere in that last 30 minutes, I bet they had instructions.
They
No,
did.
we listened to the end.
We did stay till the end, but it doesn't
They
mean
were
I
pretty
absorbed everything.
prescriptive about
They were.
what
So
they want.
we'll
So
we will
I have that
advise the
link.
committee. Okay.
Okay. Well, just let me know if I need to show up somewhere and sign my name to something.
Okay.
There was another piece of correspondence that was sent to individual members of the committee. I put that in the folder. We did not receive any correspondence to the committee as a whole. From what I hear, folks are sending their correspondence to the select board, which is great. Not that we don't want to hear from you, we obviously do, but, yeah. We do not need executive session. If any other business that can legally come before the board at this time? Seeing none, I declare the meeting adjourned. Good night, Grafton.
Good night.